Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. Coming to you from the Sports Interaction Studio, I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. In this one, folks, we are going to be reacting to the playoff odds by FanGraphs. They posted these out very recently. This takes in everything that's happened this offseason, who we lost, who we gained, and then we're going to take a look at where the Jays are and compare that to where the rest of the league is. Spoiler alert, some of these people, some of the projections, specifically the LA Dodgers, ludicrous stuff, folks. Let us know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below and just your overall feelings. Please make sure to hit that like and smash that subscribe button. Here is the graph looking at all of the playoff odds across MLB and specifically the Toronto Blue Jays. As you can see, we are third right now projected in the American League at a playoff percentage chance of 61.8%. How do you feel about being 61.8% likely to go to the playoffs?
Well, some people might be thinking, wow, that's not that high, or other people who are a little bit haters might be thinking that's exactly accurate. But I might be one of those haters because I think that's exactly accurate, because you look at what the AL East has become this offseason, there's a lot more competition, and a lot more of those teams that deserve to go to the playoffs are now fighting with the rest of the American League to get into a wild card spot. Obviously I'm talking about the Yankees. They're right above the Jays, even though I don't believe they've done a hell of a lot this offseason. They're still right there. They still got a decent roster. The Boston Red Sox have definitely improved. They added a ton of pitching right there. They're fourth in the American League. And they got the Baltimore Orioles, who added Pete Alonso and Taylor Ward, really beefing up that lineup. What can they do after a misery year last year? They at least going to be tough. So I think that is also factored in to why the Blue Jays are at 61.8%. I don't hate it, because injuries could happen, underperformances could happen, and then just the rest of the American League, things that are out of your control, could happen as well.
At the end of the day, like FanGraphs, from my understanding of things, it does a lot of math, folks. Like there's not supposed to be any bias involved in the algorithm. This is just a massive computer doing all of the taking everything and simulating it a trillion different times. And out of the trillion times, we went to the playoffs. What would that be? 61 billion times? Whatever the math is. I don't even know. Yes. But either way, like the bias isn't there. So for me, like I look at this and I think that this is actually rather accurate, right? They're taking the guys that we have on the squad right now. They're projecting them all out. They are factoring in injuries in some simulations, and then they're factoring in other simulations where everybody pops off and everybody goes crazy. And out of all of those times, 61.8% of them, Toronto should theoretically make the playoffs. Go back to the playoff odds for very quickly, because I do want to pick your brain. How do you feel about Baltimore, who was not very good last year at all, does have a relatively good offseason, but now they're projected 55% of the time to make playoffs, and you can actually see the cutoff line right there. They would be the last ones in. And according to FanGraphs, they're projecting Baltimore, Boston, Toronto, and New York, 4 AL East teams to go to the dance.
That's a good pick you had right there, because they're above the Houston Astros. I know they're not the same Houston Astros of before, but they're still pretty good, and they've got something that the Baltimore Orioles don't, which is a good rotation. Whereas over here, you've got, Trevor Rogers, almost a Tyler Rogers. Trevor Rogers there, he leading the pack. He had, 163 innings under his belt, or that was projections, last year. He had 109 innings under his belt, which isn't a lot that you can really hang your hat on. It was really good in those 109 innings with a 1.81 WAR. If he can be good, that'd be great, but you need him to be great. That's the thing. They're relying on him to be great, because everybody else, Kyle Bradish has injury histories. Shane Baz, you have no idea. Dean Kramer, you have no idea. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying here? This rotation isn't that deep, and it's really scary with a lot of question marks, and that's what brings you to the playoffs in 162 games. So for me, Baltimore really high over those Astros. Tough for me to project them higher, not high at 55%.
Yeah, I get that. I guess where I was kind of going with all that, though, is just the fact that 4 American League East teams are in the playoffs, and even Baltimore, crazy. Not having a good year last year is still projected to be a lot better than where they were last year. I think everybody kind of figured like last year was a big bottom year for them. Like that's about as rock bottom as they're going to get, and they should theoretically be better. And that kind of circles back to what your point was off the top, which is maybe our projection would be a little little bit higher, but you have to factor in that New York is good. I know that we don't like to admit it, but New York is still good. Boston is better, and Baltimore should also be better, and that's just going to eat away at Toronto's wins. We did really well in the division last year. Maybe we don't do as well this year because Baltimore comes back to life, and Boston is really solid this year. So just food for thought right there. I do want to talk a little bit more about what Toronto needs to do, but very quickly, 99.1% of the time, LA to make the playoffs. Fucking crazy stuff, man.
Listen, that is unbelievable. You're telling me that 0.9% of the time they don't make the playoffs? Actually, yeah, I do believe it. I'm gonna bring up their roster right now because that goes to show how deep they are. Like I said, injuries are going to happen. But if they had 3 of their starting pitchers injured, and mind you, that actually happened, I believe, last year and the year before. They had a lot of starting pitching injuries. They still made it work because of how deep they are. Even in the bullpen, if half those guys got injured, they're going to be okay. Because guess what? They'll bring up the next guy or they'll make a trade at the deadline. They're so deep. Same with the lineup. They are so bloody deep that even if they totally catch the injury bug, they'll still probably make playoffs in the National League.
No, injury bug isn't enough. It would actually need to be some type of pandemic level event. Where
no one can play.
Legitimately the whole roster gets hit with this terrible illness that only affects LA Dodgers players, or a meteor hits LA. This is what it would require, honestly, because you're right. I mean, they lose 2 or 3 guys, oh no, the other 2 or 3 guys that are behind them are really, really good. Yeah. And then also, too, I would imagine at this point, FanGraphs is smart enough to be factoring in any problems that this team does actually have. They'll address them come trade deadline. That is what they do. So they're going to make the playoffs. I would say, if anything, that just goes to show the discrepancy, I think, from a monetization, financial standpoint, economy standpoint, from the LA Dodgers and maybe everybody else in baseball. It's 99.1% of the time to make the playoffs. That is crazy. Would the salary cap fix that? I don't know, but just food for thought.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Again, I know we have some Dodger fans watching over. They'll probably get some comments about this. You know what's crazy? What am I even watching the regular season for? Actually, if I have 99% chance to go to the playoffs, why am I even watching? I guess I'm just watching for all the records.
You're watching for Ohtani MVP.
Yeah, I'm watching for the MVP. I'm watching for, can he hit 60 home runs this time around? Can he get 60-60? You know what I mean? Can he be the greatest go? I'm watching that, but I don't care about wins or losses. You lose the game, whatever. I'm gonna win the next 5. Well, it doesn't matter. Whereas the Blue Jay fans, circling it all back, 61.8%. That's something you still gotta watch. Nothing's guaranteed, and you gotta fight for it all year long.
No. Nothing is guaranteed at all. And again, I do think that 61.8%, that's a good spot to live for Toronto. I'm actually pretty happy with that. And I know that we did just go to the World Series, but that was when a lot of things went right for us at the right times. Yeah. You're asking to do that all over again. And for a team like LA, okay, that's relatively easily. For a team like Toronto, it's not so much. To go and actually win the World Series, those odds came out as well. LA, as you can see, 28.4% of the time they're supposed to win the World Series, which is ludicrous. They're effectively saying they will make the championship series. They will make it to the semifinals. And if they don't, then it's going to be a complete and utter loss for them. And then even when they make it there, they'll still be favorited, is what those odds are saying. But Toronto, as you can see, is down there at 7 with a 4.7% chance to win, the World Series. Nothing's guaranteed for this team. I know that they went there last year, but at the end of the day, it is going to require a lot. I think one thing that's really interesting, I'm actually just noticing this right now, is how they're viewing Boston over Toronto, because Toronto has a slightly better, I think, or tied anyways. No, 0.1% chance, better chance to make the playoffs than Boston, but they're giving Boston the edge to win the World Series. I think specifically is because when they make it to the playoffs, they are valuing Boston's rotation over a lot of other teams.
Yeah, and I think that's where they're, for Blue Jays, kind of leading into, my whole, idea of what what is going to bring the Blue Jays back to the World Series or make them go on a deep playoff run is they need that rotation to be good. Because, yeah, you look at Boston, which is a very proven and consistent rotation. All these guys they're bringing in, they can easily project that. Where the Blue Jays, you do have Dylan Cease in there that, again, is up and down, up and down. It's really hard to predict. You can predict the strikeouts pretty good, but what's he going to do in terms of the numbers? You know, they got the projection right here.
And they're giving him a relatively good projection.
That's really good projection right there.
Like, I would take that.
Oh, yeah. Dylan Cease did a 3.59. Absolutely. Same with Shane Bieber. First full season coming back from injury. What is he going to get from there? And then even projecting Trey Savage for a 3.83, I would still take that as well for his first full season in the big league. So honestly, if the Blue Jays had this rotation, it's very, very good and deep and good. But I think they're projecting Boston Red Sox with Crochet and company being a little bit better, and that's why they got a better odds.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to, I guess, just value the pitching a little bit more in the playoffs, even though we did just prove that offense can carry you there. I guess FanGraphs.
It was a weird year. I don't know how that, like, it was just a weird year for the Blue Jays.
It's been a weird year a couple years, right? Because it was like offense carried Toronto this past year, and then the year prior to that, it was LA had the bullpen, and it was just, we're going to bullpen our way. Oh, we're going to Band-Aid ourselves all the way to the World Series, and it worked for them, right? So I know that everybody always says pitching wins championships, and I do think that over the long haul, that's probably still true. There are other ways to do it. Either way, in conclusion, folks, just under 62% of the time is what FanGraphs is projecting the Toronto Blue Jays to make the playoffs, or I guess miss the playoffs if you're a glass half empty type of individual. I like where we're at right now. There's a strong reason to watch the season, and I think those odds are pretty reflective as to where we are as a squad right now. We don't have the same luxury that LA does, where we can weather the storm of 18 injuries and still be okay. You're going to need to see that starting pitching do well. And honestly, I think a big factor for me, big X factor, is how are you going to do in your division? There's a lot of games to be played between New York and between Boston and between Baltimore. And if things are as close as FanGraphs is projecting, it could come down to 1 or 2 games, right? When it's all set, like, it might be the difference between a win or a loss. We saw that happen a few years ago, right? You want to have a good record against those teams where you can control your own destiny. That's a big X factor for me.
I mean, they beat the Yankees and they both had 94 wins, and that's what got them to buy.
That was the difference.
That was the big difference. And this year, even more crucial with all the competition. The division games are going to be exciting this year. And I think coming off the momentum of last year, if you see a division series coming up, you should be turning on the TV and keeping your eyes glued, because it could be some good baseball.
Folks, let us know your thoughts about all this in the comments down below. Do you agree with these projections? Do you disagree with them? Just your overall thoughts. Please make sure to hit that like, smash that subscribe button. $4 a month to become a YouTube member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current YouTube members. You guys are amazing.
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
And as always,
go Jays, go!